Hey, Darksiders, welcome to week 2 of distance learning. Now, week 1 didn't go very smooth with Schoology, especially earlier in the first half of the week. Schoology seemed to get a lot better, and hopefully that trend continues and we don't have as many issues. If we do have any technical issues going on as we go forward here, breathe, walk away, check in later, try to get your stuff done later in the day, whatever. But don't just throw your hands up in the air and say, screw this, all right? Keep at it, okay? Um, with that in mind, I just want to real quick talk about the idea of social distancing. I know that this has been all over the news. You can't look anywhere and not see it. But the idea behind it is that why we're social distancing, why we're staying at home, is to stop the spread of the virus. And please adhere to that, listen to that, because the sooner that we get this thing under control, the sooner we go back to life as we know it. The sooner we get back into school, the sooner we get back to sports, get back into restaurants, get back to places, and being able to see each other and just live our normal lives like before this all happened. So please, just listen to it, adhere to it, and let's get back to life as we know it. One real quick update is in here in the distance learning information folder. I have a piece of contact information that was updated. If you need to call or text me, again, use Remind, okay? But I have a new phone number that you can, again, if you want to schedule an appointment with me, a phone call to talk about whatever's going on, do that. And you will use this number to contact me. If you need to call or text me, use this number and I will get back to you, or we'll talk, okay? Now let's go down into where we're working at this week. Now with 7 Deadly Sins, we just really eased into it with that symbols and deadly sins, just to get an idea of it. We're gonna go into now this week with Masque of the Red Death. Now you just have a 4-day week, Monday through Thursday. We have Easter break coming up, so you'll have Friday and Friday the 10th and Monday the 13th off. Okay, so over these 4 days, you have a short story to read, which is called Masque of the Red Death. We're going to talk about that in a second. You have some guided reading questions that go along with it. Very simple to do. And then there's this reading check. I believe it's 10 questions, multiple choice reading check that you'll have to get finished as well. Now, in Schoology, sometimes when you're taking a quiz, you know this, that Schoology bumps you out. Click submit, message me and let me know that you had an issue with it, and I will go in and unsubmit it and get you going back into the quiz. All right? All right, so let's talk about Masque of the Red Death and this story. Now, just to be honest, it's not an easy story to read. Just throwing that out there. But we'll talk about that in just a second. So I want to go over some background information on it first. Again, it's written by Edgar Allan Poe, the man. We're going to skip over a lot of this stuff about Poe. He lived an unhappy life. He died a poor guy. He was not famous. He married his 14-year-old cousin. Interesting. Was addicted to drugs and alcohol. He died in Baltimore under very mysterious conditions. Now, this term I do want to talk about is an allusion. It's a literary term, and it's basically when an author references a famous historic or literary figure or event. So a famous historical event or literary figure, when they make an allusion, when they talk about that, that's called an allusion. They're alluding to that event. Okay, and that definitely happens in Masque of the Red Death. We'll talk about that in just a minute. An allegory is a story in which characters, setting, and actions stand for something beyond themselves. So allegories are very similar to symbols. Okay, symbols take an object or a person or a place and give it meaning more than what it is. Okay, that's a symbol. It's a really small. It's a small thing. An allegory is the overall story. The entire story is symbolic and says something about life and human behavior. Okay? So, for example, in the story in the book, some of you may have read this. I don't know. In Lord of the Flies, this is an allegory of society. The entire story is an allegory or a symbol, and it's about our society. So, Masque of the Red Death is an allegory. It takes on a much bigger meaning. The overall story is symbolic for something. Okay. More about allegory. Characters and places in allegories often have names that reveal their symbolic significance. And I'm going to just skip over this stuff because... Okay. All right, so some background. Let's get into some background for Masque of the Red Death. Post-fictional Red Death is based on the Black Death, which swept 14th century Europe and Asia, killing as many as 2/3 of the population in some regions in less than 20 years. Poe calls the plague the Red Death because victims oozed blood from painful sores. In this story, a 14th century prince has a costume party, or a mask, to try and forget about the epidemic raging all around him. Isn't it ironic that we're reading a story about a plague that's killing all kinds of people, and we have the coronavirus going on? It's quite a coincidence, isn't it? But anyway, so this is Masque of the Red Death. Again, the Red Death is this plague. It's this disease that's killing all kinds of people. It's based on the actual Black Death. Okay? The Black Death, more about the Black Death, the real Black Death. This particular type of plague was the bubonic plague, which is caused by a bacteria that lived in rats and other rodents. The symptoms associated with plague are painful swellings of the lymph nodes, which appear in the armpits, legs, neck, and groin. Victims also suffered from bleeding in the lungs, high fever, delirium, and prostration. There's a video about the Black Death. Quick little summary. Poe's tale of an eccentric nobleman, so a prince, and the Red Death ravaging his land can be read both as a ghost story and as an allegory representing human folly and the inevitability of death. In other words, you cannot hide from death, regardless how much money you have. Prince Prospero invites 1,000 lords and ladies to escape death by living luxuriously in his castle until the pestilence passes. To entertain his guests, Prospero hosts a masquerade party that takes place in 7 halls, each a different color. At the stroke of midnight, a tall figure in a blood-splattered burial costume appears, and the fun begins. Look for the symbols. Some symbolism in Masque of the Red Death. The story itself represents a truth about human condition. The people, places, and events of the story represent what Poe believed to be a truth about life. So the castle, it's also called an abbey, the masked ball or the masquerade, the clock. They'll talk about this in the story. These are all symbols. So the number 7, Poe's use of the number 7 is important to understanding the story as a whole. There are 7 rooms, and there are 7 stages of life. It starts off with the blue room: infancy, purple, childhood; green, adolescence; orange, puberty; white, adulthood; violet, old age; and black symbolizes death, or the 7th stage of death. All right? The rooms are arranged east to west so that the sun first enters the blue room and the day ends as the sun passes the black room. Yet another symbol of life and death, right? The sun rises, starting life, right? Starting our day. The sun sets, ending the day. Life, death. Kind of getting that? Okay. So that's just real quick. Now you can go back over that if you'd like, but that's just real quick. So here is the PDF and the questions. Down here is audio, so you can listen to the story being read to you. There's no video; it's just audio. Here's audio, and then here is you can read along, listen to it, and read along here. But I just want to point out this PDF is that. It is a hard story to read. It's not easy. It's not an easy story to understand. Okay? But pay attention to the things that are highlighted. All right? And in the margins, it explained why it's highlighted. There's an explanation here. The Red Death had long devastated the country. Okay? This pestilence is an allusion to the Black Plague, which we talked about, and possibly the smallpox epidemic of Poe's lifetime. So on both sides of the margins of the story, there is explanations for the sentences or words that are that are highlighted yellow, and that's all the way through. Okay, let's get right here, talking foreshadowing. All right, the box, the numbers that are boxed, that just is a that just means this is paragraph 3. This is paragraph 4A, and here's 4B down here, and so forth. And again, the highlighted material is explained on either side of the margin. You just kind of have to read along and figure it out. But that's to help you understand what's going on. Okay? The highlighted stuff is, and the stuff, the explanations in the margin is just there to help you understand what's going on. Okay? So read it, listen to it, answer the questions, do the quiz, and that's all we got. And then we're done with 7 deadly sins. And the following week we go into deal with the devil. All right, so that's all I got for you for this week. Last thing, make sure you're taking care of yourself, take care of your family, check in on your friends, take care of each other, and we will talk to you soon.